Welcome to Real Talk. Today,
Something.
I want to talk about a question that's probably on every young business owner's mind. How do I charge for what I do?
Oh,
How much do I charge my clients?
I feel like I still ask that.
Every day.
Yeah, no, that's a good topic.
I know for a fact that when I was younger, and probably maybe even sometimes when I'm frustrated to this day, I still Google, how much do I charge for this crap?
Why am I not making enough?
Fully knowing that I'm not going to find the answer because it's very difficult. And
Yeah.
and video, just like anything, is there's so many nuanced details to it.
Yeah.
That it's like, how can you put a pin in one price?
Right.
There's no uniform code book of a 30-second client testimonial should cost $1,500. There's
Right.
nothing that says that in the rule books.
And and even if somebody has been able to find out what they would charge, that's not necessarily what this other person should charge.
Right. Just because someone's charging $1,000 for this service does not mean you can't charge $100,000 for that service.
Exactly.
And I'm kind of in the camp that says neither of them is wrong. I've been across from people who find out sometimes that we'll create a commercial for someone for $500.
Mm-hmm.
And they go, "Why are you doing that? You're bastardizing the industry." And I'm like, "I don't know, because I needed the money. It sounded like a fun opportunity. So hey, $500
I was comfortable doing that project for that.
yeah, $500 is better than nothing." And the client was really happy. So at the end of the day, everybody was happy. So you can just shut the F up. Real talk. But that does kind of come down to like my first point of like, how do you price this? Price it however you're comfortable.
Yeah. Well, right. And I was kind of saying that earlier when you said the $500.
Right.
It's like, well, I was comfortable doing it for that. You
Right.
know, like, where are you? Are you just starting out? Are you a one-man band? Do you have a 10-person crew? Mm-hmm. All of those things are going to factor into the comfortability of what you're quoting.
And I think you'll find as you grow in this industry, on the day you start out, you're going to probably think to yourself, if I can just figure out what that one uniform price is, it'll be good. And then I'll just operate the rest of that way until I retire.
Right.
The truth is, that's not going to happen.
Right.
You're going to come in with that mentality, and as you move along, you're going to be like, every single project is different.
Yep.
Even though the final project is probably the same, every single project is different.
Yeah. Has different variables, different people involved. Yeah,
I mean,
different.
we've done projects that are similar across the board where one project, it was like easy as could be. And the other project, even though it was pretty much the same type of video, took us way longer. We were way more exhausted at the end of it. And we sat there sitting there being like, we didn't make enough.
Right.
And really the only thing was just like, it came down to what we ended up charging.
Yeah.
So, my advice for someone when it comes down to pricing this type of content is shoot high, especially when you're young, and test it out.
Mm-hmm.
If someone said to me, I think I'm going to go out into the marketplace and I'm going to tell someone I'm going to make their commercial for $50,000. I'm not going to be like, you crazy. You're not going to get that money. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say, right on. Good for you.
Right.
Go do that.
Go do it.
And
the market will tell you if it's going to buy that or not.
Client, it's up to that client to laugh in your face or not. And it's up to you to have
Right.
the energy to say that.
Right.
And then also to build the resilience in yourself to persevere. Because there's something that comes down to like, you talk about this a lot about like ecosystem and like what is your ecosystem / your market support.
Yeah, right.
And maybe $50,000 in your region for a commercial is not sustainable.
Right. I'm not, yeah, right. Because when I say things like that, like, well, part of it is your market / ecosystem. I'm not saying race to the bottom, but I'm also not saying like, hey, if you've talked to 2,000 people and every single one of them told you that $50,000 for their commercial is too much, you might be charging too much.
You might just want to lower, but it's always easier to lower your price than to raise your price
Sure.
at that point. And when
Sure.
you're young, it's a lot easier to be crazy and reckless like that.
Well, right, because you don't really have anything to lose. You don't have as much
Right.
to lose.
Well, let's see. I don't have a job today, so if I go tell somebody it's $50,000, either they say yes and I'm $50,000 richer, or they tell me no, and guess
Right.
what? I still don't have a job today, so I'm no worse off.
Right.
Not like they're going to pull out a gun and kill you or something. I mean,
that'd be a very strange end to
what
a client
weird,
meeting.
Strange turn.
Thank
this
you
took.
for this meeting.
So, but in all seriousness, I think you got to then also come back. If you're like, okay, guys, stop talking big numbers. Like, let's talk realistic numbers. Like $50,000. You might be 21 years old watching this and being like, I'm not ever gonna ask someone to give me $50,000. All right, well, let's talk real numbers then. Like, let's say a commercial campaign for $12,000. You're in a mid-sized market, whatever, and you're maybe gonna do 1, 2, 3 maybe commercials for this client, and you're thinking $12,000. Okay, fine, cool, but maybe you don't know. But maybe that's where you're sitting there thinking like, if I can make that, I feel like if I could charge that, I'd be happy.
Right.
If I could walk into a meeting and ask for that much money, I'd be happy. But maybe you're on the fence about it. You're a little nervous. What could you do? The easiest thing you could do is just ask questions.
Didn't we have a real talk about that, about listening?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
No, we did.
Okay, it's 24, so, there's a lot of stuff we talk about.
But I think that's one of the most important things is just ask questions. Listen. Like, honestly, the easiest and quickest way to figure out what a potential client is willing to invest in something is just to ask them what they're willing to invest.
Right.
It's not a mean thing to ask.
Sure.
If anything, it's nice because like I'm not here trying to squeeze every single penny out of your company as possible. I'm also trying to make you a good product. So with gleaming that information, I can say, well, here's what I can bring to that.
And sometimes it feels a little cringe to
of course,
to sit there and be like, what do you have to spend?
Yeah. So I know we don't like
How much
talking
do you want
about
to
this,
spend
but
on this? And sharks can smell blood. They know when you're uneasy about it, dude. And like that's what makes it feel cringe. Is when you're just like, time for the uncomfortable
it's when you're cringy
question.
About it.
What's your number?
Yeah.
So sometimes we've even talked about it. How do you not be cringy about that? Like how can you ask that question in a subtle way? Honestly, the greatest success that I have found that I bring into pretty much every meeting. So if you're a future client of ours watching this, like expect this to happen. Is pretty much asking the question of, if we were to, or what does this project look like? If this project were a success after we're done, what does it look like to you? Chances are they're not going to mention budget. Mm-hmm. Chances are they're not going to say anything about the budget.
Right.
But you say, okay, perfect. So, if I'm to understand, and then I kind of regurgitate what they say, and I also then add in, and if we come in under budget, that would probably be successful for you. And then they're going to either say yes or no, right? And they're always going to say yes. They're never going to say, no, don't come in under budget. Right. But either way, I then tagged a secondary question onto that first question based off of their response.
Right.
And then what they're going to do is say yes. And you say, okay, perfect. So what budget do we have to work with?
Right.
Now we're talking about it without ramrodding the question of money in their face.
Right.
We've eased them into it. Now they're warmed up to it. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's a really great question. What is our budget?
Because the way you're posing it, you're not posing it like, okay, what's your number? It's more like, hey, where's your comfort cap now? Where's your investment level?
I'm phrasing this all around success.
Yeah, exactly.
Success of the project.
Because that's what it is.
Right.
So
I think, and ever since implementing that, I've always been able to get a budget from somebody.
Right.
And I think it's beautiful once a client offers up their budget to us or other producers, because then the no-nonsense game, or the nonsense game, goes out the window. It becomes no nonsense. We are all there to equally be mutually beneficial and help each other succeed. I'm here to do a service. You're here to get something of value to you. You must pay for that.
Right.
And at that time, all of the crosstalk can go away.
Yeah.
And so I think the two most important things are figure out what you want to make, shoot high, especially if you're young. Play the field, get a lot of sample sizes.
Test it. Why not? Like we did that in the early days.
We still do it.
Yeah.
To a certain degree.
Sometimes. And we have found a lot of times like, okay, that was too high. Or we have been in situations where we took projects and by the end of it, running the numbers and kind of what we came out on hourly, we're like, that's too low. Don't do that again.
Right. Exactly. And then the second point is ask questions and understanding that if you can start with those two main things at the top, you'll be very successful in figuring out what to charge for the content you want to create for someone very quickly.
Yeah.
But then I think on top of that, price yourself ethically.
Yeah.
I think that is my most important, moral.
Yeah, we got the two practicals,
right.
And now we got
to. Don't be a D-bag.
Right. Like, don't be going out there being like, well, let's see. It's a it's a 30-second interview, one camera. It's just me running it, and it's a testimonial of one of your customers. Well, easily that's going to be $2 million.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
I don't think Scorsese could charge that much.
I don't know. He might be able to. That'd be the best interview I've ever seen. Be the best testimonial anyone's ever seen.
I think ethics plays two key roles when it comes to creating video content for a customer. First, it allows you to stay honest and above board with your client, which that may not be detrimental first time you do it, second time you do it, but give it 2 or 3 years of unethical charging practices to your customer, and they're going to find out. And how
you're going to get burned.
How they're going to find out is a competitor is going to show up and be like, I can do that for this. And then they're going to call you and say, why are you charging me so much? And you'll be like,
uh-oh. And
going to Vegas.
Right, people might come in and they tell you, they give them that information not because they're just trying to undercut you, because that's the more ethical cost association with it.
If
and
they're
you're
smart
sitting there
about it. Yeah.
I mean, and I think the nice thing is that the people who charge unethically do typically end up tipping out over
They're
themselves.
the ones that either get out of the industry entirely or hop market to market to market.
Yep.
And they're always transient and moving around.
Yep.
And the second point to being ethical, and to me, but they're both equally as important.
Mm-hmm.
Like, neither one has more weight than the other, is when you price yourself ethically and you operate ethically with those dollars, everyone in your circle benefits and is happy.
Yep.
Nothing pains me more than when I find out my services were marked up 200%.
Right. Or when, it's when we see people coming to us looking for quotes and they're like, oh, yeah, well, I was, getting quoted from somebody else and they were telling me it was going to cost some astronomical number with a bunch of additional services that they don't want tacked on. And it's like, what? That's not ethical,
There's that, but that comes down to the quoting process and like the scoping of the project. Is that ethical or not? But I'm talking specifically about
just the dollar.
Paying your vendors.
Oh, yeah.
If you're a producer and you have a budget and you're walking away with, in my opinion, anything more than 40% margin on that budget, I think 40% margin is baller. Like, if you're walking away with 40%, you're walking a tight line, in my opinion. But if you're walking away with anything more than that, you're playing an unethical game. Because what that's essentially saying is, especially if you're a producer and you're freelancing the work out. I've been in situations where I found out through, everyone talks in this industry, I found out what the budget was for work I did.
Yeah.
And I found out it was a 200% markup on an animation project.
Right.
And I'm thinking to myself, that producer made 2 times more. 2 times? 3 times? I don't know. I made my rate, and he made twice that above me.
Well,
and all I'm thinking about, my family needs to benefit from the work I do.
Yeah.
Why is someone taking the money that I did the work on?
Yeah.
I get markup. I understand that every business needs to operate. Every business needs to be profitable and keep their doors open. That's what the money should do. It's unethical when you have the budget available and you're not giving that to your vendors and keeping them happy. Because what it's going to do is it's going to make that vendor say, you know what, I don't want to work with you anymore.
Well, and especially when to make those margins, you're suppressing everyone else's
You're driving
budget.
them down.
You're saying, oh, well, I know that you charge this much, but I can't pay you this much because I want to make a $4,000 margin or 4,000% margin.
Yeah, right.
So, sorry.
Yeah.
I know you charge $400, but I could pay you like $10.
Right.
And
I think, I see that because we worked as freelancers so heavily for many years, and then we became producers, and I've seen both sides of it.
Yeah.
And I can see where the temptation does come from sometimes, where you're like, that freelancer doesn't know what I'm actually upcharging them on, so I don't. But then you're just like, no, you know what? What that does is it's a cancer. It grows inside of you, and it gets more perverted, and over time it's going to become more dangerous, and eventually it's going to dismantle your entire company. So if you are of the personality who is interested in creating something and only letting it have a very small table or a very small shelf life, but it makes you a lot of money, then do that. Be as unethical as you want. But if you want to be someone who wants to do this because you're passionate about it and you want to help people be successful, be ethical about it and make everyone around you in your circle of influence happy.
Yeah.
And that's like the best thing I think you can do when it comes to pricing out a project to work for a client in this commercial field.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think that's great. I think anyone who's asking this question, which I know we are too still.
I'll probably Google this in like 3 weeks and then see our video pop up and be like, I'm going to watch that.
Oh, hey. I think that, kind of recapping the main 3 points, test the market, charge what you're comfortable working for, ask questions, and be ethical.
Yeah, and ask questions specifically to find out what your client's comfortable paying.
Right.
And don't ignore, at the end of all of that, don't ignore it, learn from it, and always improve upon it.
Yeah.
So that every project is a stepping stone in the right direction.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's our opinions on how you can go about pricing out a video project for a client. I hope you found it beneficial. If you did, subscribe. We post more content like this every single day where you can learn more information like this. If there's someone in your circle who you think could benefit from this message, share this video with them. We'd love to hear their feedback in the comments down below and yours. So if you have a question, let us know, and we'll see you on the next one.
See ya.